1 Corinthians chapter 15, Paul says some pretty incredible things. He says, death itself will be swallowed up in victory. And he says, where, O death, is your sting? Where, O death, is your victory? Basically mocking death, because death has been defeated by what Jesus did on Easter Sunday. And when Paul says those things, he's actually quoting from two Old Testament passages. One is from the prophet Isaiah, and the other is from the prophet Hosea. And the reason he's quoting from those passages is because he wants us to see that what happened with Jesus on Easter Sunday is in fact part of a big story of renewal and redemption and victory over death that God has been telling all the way from the beginning. If you go all the way back to the book of Genesis, in Genesis chapter 3, we human beings, we rebelled, turned away from God, got entangled in sin, and because of that, we will die. But even there, God says, you know what, one day, a descendant of yours will crush the head of the serpent, meaning crush the head of sin and even death itself. And if you fast forward in the story, you get the story of God delivering his people from slavery in Egypt and giving them victory there. And you fast forward again to the prophets, where things were not looking so good for the people of Israel and Judah. And the prophets are looking forward to this day when a final victory will be given to God's people, victory over sin and death. And that is what we get in Jesus on Easter Sunday. But here's the thing. That's not the end of the story, because you and I are given this victory over sin and death, and then you and I are invited to participate in the continuing of telling this story of renewal and redemption. We do that by going to the places where there is hurt and there is pain and there is need, and we speak a word of God's grace, or we do an act of God's mercy and service and kindness, or we invite others to come and experience the freedom and the joy and the hope of what God has done for us in giving us victory over sin and death.